So hi everyone, today in this video we're gonna develop another mental model that can be useful for you, since mental models are representations about how the reality work, and as much more you grasp them, higher is so the probability of you getting what you want. That is so prosperity, and I think so it's what everyone gets. But with that said, by understanding what the majority of the people tend to want, prosperity, whatever is the field, in relationships, if we're talking about professionally, but wherever is the field, you always have certain type of objectives that you want and you tend to seek. But for that, you kind of require to sharpen your decision making, because decision making is what ultimately so make you select certain actions to be made in comparison with other ones, because you believe these actions will be the most they are the ones that depending obviously as well the context that you're present in, it will be so the ones that will make it prone, will make it more prone so to get what you want. But then so obviously it requires a bit of information, because if you get information of what seems to work or not, you so don't need to rely in just maybe make like blind experiments and taking actions without so understanding if they already were done by other people's, and then so you don't spending time that you should not spend. That's why study is good, because study it kind of makes you not spend time doing things that other ones have already proved that are wrong, and then so you do what seems to be proved as right. And obviously this doesn't as well take like space for you trying to make innovations but creativity and having creativity, but you have to understand that you have to rely in the fundamentals. You have to get these type of principles that are fundamentally true, and they should rule your life like 89% of the time, and then so you can always have time to experience new things if you want. But then so with that talk, what's going to be the one that I would like to serve as input from some from all of your principles that you have grasped all over your time in this life is an economic mental model that's called the deflation spiral. How failing prices trigger economic collapse. And it's a paradox, and that's why I think it's important, because people tend to perceive that see the prices falling over the time, that's something that's positive. And that's so what's this mental model is going to make you understand why it's not something that you should be confident and optimistic if you see. But then so we should try to understand it. What's the core idea of this deflation spiral mental model? So the deflation spiral occurs when falling prices lead to reduced consumer spending, what seems to be a paradox, because if you have falling prices, you tend to believe that these mean that more people will spend. But the reality is that the deflation spiral occurs so when a specific type of situation seems to be something that doesn't have logic but happens, is when so falling prices leads to reduced consumer spending, lower business revenues, wage cuts, and layoffs, creating a self-reinforcing cycle of economic decline. What seems like a boon for consumers, like cheaper goods, becomes a trap, crushing demand and deepening debt burdens and paralyzing growth. But then so obviously with that understood, we're gonna have to dive deep in understanding the mechanism so that create this loop, that self-reinforcing loop that makes so you don't have the benefits that you will expect by having so cheaper goods in your economy. But then so how it works, what are like the bullet points that we have to look? Price declines. Price drop due to oversupply, weak demand, or technological advances. Example is automation lowering producing costs. Seems to be good. So if the price is dropping because is existing so a lot of technological advances, it's easier to have business to produce the things. And then so obviously this comes, and this seems to be something that's positive, because that's why technology is useful. Make our life easier, because what we need to do, we need to get our needs getting satisfied, and this comes with consuming goods. And if it make it easier, more quantities seems to be good so for the generally type of population. So But obviously we have to understand how it works, see other bullet points, see how it's negative. But then so the first, price declines exist in that specific situation scenario. Two, delayed purchases. The consumers postpone spending, expecting even lower prices because people have see a pattern. The prices are decreasing over the time. So why spending now? Because I can expect till next year because I will get that in next year the price will even become cheaper. So why I'm spending now? And this so it's already something that creates in the short term the demand to decrease because people don't want to spend now because they're always expecting the thing in the future so to become even more cheaper. So example, why buy a TV today if it will be 10% cheaper next month? Revenue collapse, business slash prices to attract buyers, shrinking profits. So price declines, delayed purchases. So if the demand decreases even more because people are expecting even cheaper prices over the time, this even creates lower demand, and then supply seeing it, they will have to make their type of offering even more attractive. So they will even decrease more the prices. But when we decrease the prices, the equation of profit for a company, that is price multiplied by quantifies, that is sales by the costs. If so the price decreasing less, the profit decreases or even can create a negative, in terms of the relation between profits and costs. What this so create? Cost cutting. The companies cut wages, lay off workers, or halt investments to survive. If the cost is cost cutting, we cut wages, which also means that people becomes unemployed, and then so it even makes worse what the demand even exists at lower because people now is gonna have people that doesn't have wages and then so doesn't have money, so the demand it will even decrease. Demand destruction, so unemployment rises, incomes fell, and spending drops further. We have another thing, the debt crisis that comes with that. The debt becomes harder because now that people don't have money because they are unemployed, they will so ask for debt. But when is existing demand for debt, what the central banks do it to not exist a lot of inflation, doesn't exist too much overputting, it will so increase the interest rates, making it harder so people to get so loans, and then so people will not solve the demand by getting loans because the banks will not make it, will so increase it the interest rates. And obviously so what this does create makes it so the debt not existing for people even increases less, increases so more the lack of demand, which so even increases more the need for supply to decrease even more the prices to have clients, which even cuts more wages. So it's like a self-reinforcement loop that makes what the tendency of the dropping prices over so the time not being certain something useful for a economy. You cannot just look for the side of demand, you have to understand as well the position of supply and how bad deflation is for supply. But obviously we don't have the completely opposite, that is how bad inflation is for the consumer, because as well tends to happen the completely opposite. But both lead to unemployment and as well the supply, and the companies doesn't have any profit. They're not able to have it profit. So both two ways are bad. What are the examples? We have used it. Japan's last decade, chronic deflation lead to stagnant growth with consumers hoarding cash and firms avoiding investment. COVID's early phase, oil prices briefly turned negative as demand vanished, threatening a broader deflationary shock. Because it's something that we have to understand, the debt increases, they increase the interest rate, and people that have money, they will as well have more loss aversion to spending it because they can think that in the future if they need that money back they will not be able to get because the interest rates are high, because a lot of people are wanting to get so these loans because they don't have work, they are in employment, and then so it's like a theory of games that nobody wants to move because they have a lot of uncertainty in this economy. Why it matters? Stagnation creates stagnation, economies get stuck in low growth trapped for decades, debt bombs, deflation makes mortgages, student loans, and corporate debt unplayable, real value rises, and central bank impotence with rates near zero, tools like rate cuts lose power. What are the solutions? We have aggressive fiscal stimulus, governments must spend on infrastructure, welfare, and jobs to boost demand, monetary experimentation, helicopter monies like direct cash transfers or negative interest rates to force spending, so even be more aggressive initially, debt relief, cancel or restructure household student debt to reduce defaults, wage price anchors, policies to stabilize wage like minimum wage hikes to rate cycle, and public campaigns like consumer debt rise incentivizing immediate spending. So if you see initially the cycle is that people have money, but people are thinking the things getting cheaper over time. It's so people tend to believe that save it, it's good. The Pareto, so the best way to do it is so not creating in that scenarios that the prices are getting cheaper over the time, and so is existing deflation, is so making people spending right now and not so make it the people save it. And so what like are the best ways is, and so don't kind of stimulate people to save and stimulate people to invest, and probably cannot just be by putting so the people to like printing money, cannot just be printing money. It's arranging other type of incentives to people so to invest now, like even if it's something that's fake, so making the price rise, have a certain type of manipulation, because it's better to do it than making this cycle that creates poisonous for the economy. So I expect this video has make you gain insights. I expect this was enough to have made like this channel, and so as well put a like, subscribe, and see other videos that may trigger your interest. With that much more to say, just thank you and see you in the next one.